Okay, this Atmos upmixer, DDS upmixer, this auro3 upmixer. When will most of you understand that? There, what the fuck? He's taking the Doritos. He's a clever kitty cat. You're not eating these. They're not good for your digestive. The upmixer that creates this kind of like overhead surround. When you use it with discrete mixes, 5.1, 7.1 only, you know, so there's nothing else there, you know, there's no discrete overhead that's encoded in the mix like a native Atmos mix, whatever. You just, the decoder is just taking the signal from the front, left and right channel, or passing it then through a matrix decoding, and it just duplicates the same sound. It's a little distracting. It's not a preference, it's a bit distracting. That's not how it you know, that's like Han Solo saying, and that's not how it works. Well, what was you doing there, Bear? Was you looking? What was going on there? What were you doing there, Bear? You know, let's fade this up on this. Shall I play that back a little bit? What's that? Now, what I'm playing back here is just Star Wars CBS Fox edition, I think. Fox Video, whatever. Two pressings, aren't there? And you hear this clonk, 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 and that's just coming through the matrix surround channel. It appears like it's overhead because of where the side surround speakers are located and they're 15-degree angle downward, and it seems that way. But it's going through a 424 matrix decoder. It's not going through any upmixing rubbish. I mean, if I use that and then play this movie through, yes, there's problems with certain discs or certain whatever. Even on off streaming, sometimes I notice when passing through it's a bit flawed, and then I notice the crosstalk is so bad it just leaks all this common phased plus center signal in the center is just filtering out everywhere. What a mess. So hang on a sec, I'll just pause that and then do the next part of the video. Okay, next part. Now I'm playing through the Dolby DSU. Not that it's scientifically accurate on stereo microphone. It's almost like binaural or whatever. It's not Joe and Tell binaural. Okay, so if I turn the fader up on the AVR, because when I use the proper Dolby Stereo 424 matrix, it goes through a different part of the system on the system. That's just the way it's been designed by myself. So I'll back up just a little bit. So I'm not sure if you can hear the crosstalk of the dialogue leaking into the overhead surrounds. What I'm just playing at the moment is just height 1, 2 and 3. And it's just the same sound being duplicated, but I don't hear that proper sound of the clunking sound. You get the C3PO going, what's that? You know, because it's all out of phase in frequency and so forth. So if I turn it up, see if you can hear the crosstalk of the dialogue leaking into the overhead. That is a bloody mess. Now if I were to switch over to DDSX, It's not as much of a mess because Dolby Labs, I think they've admitted, but they haven't put a firmware out. And Sound United, well, being Sound United, they're just damn lazy and haven't done even anything about this yet. This is several years now. Yeah, so much for supporting your customers there for these products. Oi, Bear, will you leave that alone? Bear, you leave that alone? Bear? That's Dolby Surround upmixer. Let me switch over to DTS Neural X. Okay. Oh, it's even more worse. But there is a difference in the sound of the overheads, because it sounds like one is slightly putting a little bit more output than the other, and I can hear this odd phasing sound kind of moving up and down, and this sort of like, you know, if I maybe move forward a little bit, I'll probably notice it a little bit different. But it's just the way the sound is, the signal is being going up and down, up and down. If it were looking at it on bar graphic meters, I would see the frequency sound level metering going up and down, up and down. If I go over to Auro, so I'll do that in the next part of the vid. Okay. Let me switch the Auro 3D in. It's going to sound absolute mess on the overhead. It's going to be a mess. I'll switch that in. So you can hear the front signal leaking and this reverberant echo effect. Oh god, it's so bloody awful. I heard cheap stuff like that on a realistic Tandy piece of equipment made back in the 1980s. The Auro 3D, rubbish. The DDSX, rubbish. The Dolby DSU, rubbish. Because it's taking the same signal, it's taking the same path of sound from the front, left and right, and then it passes through a network. It probably's got some logic switching circuit, so it switches this thing off or that on or whatever, and it passes through a signal path. But there's nothing great about the upmixing overhead. And well, you don't call them Atmos speakers, you don't call them DDSX speakers, you don't call them Auro speakers, because I hear everybody all the time, my Atmos channels, my Atmos speakers. They are not an Atmos speaker, they are an overhead surround speaker. No, it's overhead surround, but it's a speaker. A speaker is a speaker. A loudspeaker is a loudspeaker. It is the crossover that makes the loudspeaker what it sounds like. Or you can just put in a DSP loudspeaker management, and then you can tailor that loudspeaker with a different DSP crossover slope, and you can put a few bandpass filters in, and you can make it maybe a little bit more better than a passive crossover. Heck of a lot better. And then you got more flexibility, you got more ways to tuning the speaker, because with a passive you're limited. Okay. Not sure if the video recording can pick up the echo delay. So you should hear that, and when I pause, it's obvious. I can hear about, well, I don't know how many milliseconds I can hear, but I can hear several considerable milliseconds, and it sounds god awful. Or if I don't know about that Joe and Tell, but he listens to the whole system as a whole, so he's not going to really notice it that much. But let me see. Let me put the rest of everything on and then pause the sound and see if I can hear that delay, because that is so damn annoying.
There'll be no escape for the princess this time.
Okay, all the speakers are all utilising at the moment. I'll pause it. Or back up, play, whatever. Now I can still hear a delay. I can still hear. I can still hear a bloody goddamn delay. I'll tell you, if Joe and Tell can't hear that, or anyone else can't hear that, several people have noticed it. I'm not the only one. Several other people have noticed it because they're probably doing a bit more thorough listening. Not what I've just heard with, or just seen a video with Gene DeSola. Keep on listening. And he says, what I'm hearing. And I think, whoa! Please return seats to the upright position. We have lost cabin pressure. I'm thinking, hearing? Well, in some way, because he's playing everything as a whole, and he's not turning other things off, or disconnecting the speaker, or put a switcher box there, turn these speakers off, and then give it a listen. And then you think, yeah, I'm absolutely right. Okay, I switched in the DTSX, and if I pause the sound, I hear an almost instant stop in the sound. Not hearing several milliseconds of it, you know, because it's like this. I could put a very long delay on one of my screen channels. I mean, a ridiculous amount of delay of maybe 1,000 foot or something. But I don't have to put that much. I could put a very long delay. That would be a few hundred feet. And then suddenly, if I were to pause the sound, pause the video, and then I hear the delay in one of the channels, as well as when it's playing, everything's out of sync because one channel's been delayed by not just that much, but delayed by this much, and it sounds flipping awful. That auro3 is just, it's pants, it's rubbish. I'm surprised that only maybe few people can hear this difference and think, I've heard better, you know. I've been listening to something better than this. But most people, you dumped your Pro Logic thinking that's old, outdated and all that. All I can do is just, play my little pity violin. Can you hear it? You know, it's very tiny. But there is hope. There is a new hope. That's why you got so many inputs on the AVR, and you could theoretically plug in. I recommend a nice professional one, a Dolby DSU, and you can connect that into the system, and then have the outputs maybe going through the RCA outputs from another player, because not many people use that. Well, there is a way, you work it out yourself, and then you can add that AVR that processor then connected into 4 channels, because it's only 4 channel output, it doesn't have an SW, and you can connect that then into the inputs, and then it'll go onto your speakers, your LCR and your surround, and you wire the surround output so that the signal, the single signal would or such would go out to your both speakers equally. So you just take the plus terminal, and you got the wire, and you do it, and you just connect the plus, so the signal output would then be going to both speakers, and you got to do the back surround, and that takes a special other bit of wiring. Probably a little bit too technical for most of you lot there. So then you hear Star Wars, or exactly how, if you could remember, because you get a difference with the side of the sound frequency coming out into the room, and then the ones at the back, because they're a little bit further back, and you get a different psychoacoustic, and it's like you'll be doing this sort of shit, wow. Okay, I've put the system all back, gone into my amp assignment, switched the 8 channel off back to a 6, so it's just 1, 2 and 3 overhead. So when playing DDSX or auro3D, whatever, though auro3D is very few and far between ever played here. DDSX, goddamn rubbish. I hate it. I can't stand the bloody format. And IMAX or Limax, oh, that's even worse. Really, that Limax thing takes the piss. That's why I've got a professional THX in the kitchen. Well, I don't need professional IMAX or whatever. I would have thought all you IMAX likers out there would be going on eBay looking for all the IMAX equipment, amplifiers, speakers. Not that you'd be able to fit those speakers in your home, because they're so damn large, and you just wouldn't be able to put them in the correct positions in the corner with a baffle on it, because they're, even behind the screen, they've got a very small winged baffle going around it. Pretty crap, actually. In fact, it's mega crap compared to a THX Cinema that's got a full proper baffle wall behind the screen, and that's where you get the bass reinforced. With IMAX, it's just sheer bloody you've got to put your fingers in your ears. It's not a preference, it's not an opinion, it is simply rubbish. Because some movies that are really played to a point where you got to put earplugs in, that's not good, because that's like playing anything at home and it's way too loud, and you think, oh, that's harsh, and you turn it down. How many people keep turning the fader up and down, up and down? Well, I don't always do that, but when I do, I wear my earplugs. No, I don't have to wear earplugs here. Anyway, so I've got this going through the proper Dolby Stereo Matrix at the moment. So it's over on auxiliary number 2, and that's auxiliary that's auxiliary number 1, that's auxiliary number 2. So that's going through my CP200 and my CP500, which is all down there. You've all seen it before. It's not like you've not seen it. So if I turn the fader up, the crosstalk that I hear on it is it sounds normal-ish. It's very faint, it's very kind of as back of the box sort of thing, as we would say on the CB radio. It's kind of back of the box sort of thing. Sometimes, depending on the phasing of the signal, and you can really kind of squash it in, and then you just wouldn't really notice it. It just depends on the transfer and such. It might slightly be fraction out of phase or whatever. I mean, that's like, say, comparing apples and oranges. I would probably maybe have to compare, say, like a Japanese laserdisc pressing, or maybe one of the other Fox Video CBS ones that don't have the aspect ratio shifting, and maybe test that, you know, to see if it's the same transfer. Because if they're using the same transfer off and they're duplicating it, then it's going to be the same sort of thing. But it's a heck of a lot minimized. It's not as distracting as Auro 3D with the echo chamber effect, and the DTSX with it's leaking out bad on that, and the Dolby DSU is just, it's hopeless. So I just got to resort to the professional MPU 424 matrix, and that clonk, that comes through a heck of a lot better than this bloody Denon upmixer or Trinov or whatever rubbish they got out there. Oh, please. Because that's how it would have sounded at the Odeon or the Gaumont when I would have saw it in 1978 February, in screen 1, the Cinerama screen with the overhead surround, that left over from the 70mm Cinerama day, and that's just playing the mono matrix, sorry, the mono discrete on the 70mm, because it's 5 screen speakers behind the screen, left, center, right, and then it was utilized for a storytelling Star Destroyer. While the downstairs screen, very large but flat, only a very narrow curve, very narrow, not as Cinerama, but large auditorium, and the surround speakers were lined down the side walls, back wall, like that's the normal configuration, plus with additional overhead fitted in the ceiling, flush. 1970s. And yes, it was immersively, but to hear it actually, the mono matrix surround on its own, well, no, I'm not experienced that way. If I would have, say, today, had a time capsule and go back in time and say, hey, can you just turn the screen channels off so I can just listen to what it sounds like, and then say, can you lace up the Jiffy film or such and play the pink noise, and see what I want to hear, what that sounds like, you know, because a film soundtrack with music, sound effect, it's all varying, it's all up and down. Play steady state pink noise, and then you get an idea, and then how close does it match with the screen channel, because that's the trick, is to get the frequencies as close and near, and it's a little bit more than that. You got to kind of look at each speaker element, how it's sounding, and try and match that curvature and tone with the bass channels from the screen channel with the surrounds bass channel, and then look at then the middle range frequency, which will be playing through the HF horn. They'll be using a passive crossover back then. They wouldn't be using active crossover back then. They will be using passives, totally passives. Wow. I'll just put my screen channel on.
Okay, for the princess this time. What's that?
And if I mute the surround.
What's that? What's that?
There's a very little bit of that sound in the front, so it's kind of I suppose depending on how much they are panning the sound and bringing it, so it's kind of up the front and down the side, so it's kind of like, you know, like that. And if you kind of bring the signal in and you'll be pushing it more upward towards the front, and then it'd be less of it heard in the mono matrix surround, because the way it works is the front channels are plus signal and the surrounds are anti or minus negative. They're anti-phased. The front are you know, and the logic circuitry is looking for the steering of the sound. Oh, anyway, Go and get a proper Dolby Pro Logic decoder, put back in your system, and ditch this bloody upmixing thing, for crying out loud. If you want to do like upmix sound and take it from the front channels, the sides and the back with 5.1 or 7.1 mixes, you got to add in a different decoders, so, and then put it for an audio mixer, and then the outputs from that mixer then going into the amplifiers. This is separates, of mind you, separates. You can't just do this with an AVR internal amplifiers. It's impossible to do that, because you got no way to decode in the sound and all this. Yeah, you'd get something more customized and better. And for crying out loud, when you're even using an AVR with an upmixer with an Atmos native mix, proper one that's got proper actual stem track recording, and they're panning the sounds and the like the music, say on Gravity, when you hear it on the overheads, it's totally different to what the bed channels are, where you go to sleep and you dream about objects flying around. It's totally different. But if you listen to other garbage trash, say like Star Wars Revenge of the Sith manual Atmos mix, it's the same bloody music. There's no difference in the elements of the music tracks. They are totally the same. It's a cohesive fucking mess. Crying out loud. I don't want to put the Laserdisc player on total pause. So that's what you got to look for. You got to know what to really look for, what to listen for. I've been doing it for decades. Even before I did cinema projection, when I started, 89 to 1990, up to and lastly up to 1990. What was it? 1998, I think. And that was it. And then after that, yeah, I didn't want to do it again. Couldn't care less. I certainly wouldn't care less about doing it today, because cinema is not cinema anymore. It's the home. It's media. It's a video projector. It's downloading. The home has been doing all that sort of thing long before cinemas have been doing that. We could do downloads and all this and that, and then cinema starts catching on. They say they're going to lower the prices of technology and all that. Bullshit! So how come the projectors are cost more than a 35 or even a 70mm projector that was built to last? And then you got these crappy projectors, and when they're outdated, they're on eBay, and nobody, including myself, would want to touch it with a barge pole. Oh dear. Anyway, so all I can say is keep on THX audience listening.